Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for this honor. Thank you for the Shoah Foundation. I've been here, before you were born. And I watched Stephen come to the idea of this and then begin to move around and make it become real and make it become successful, very successful. So thank you very much. It really is a great honor. And with a speech like that, one would think you're probably going to run for president or something. I've never had so many accolades in one speech. So I'm just going to do a little short one, which I haven't written out or anything. I'm going to trumpet, which makes my wife very, very nervous. But many years ago, 25 years ago, I started an educational foundation, and it was to bring better practices into the school, awareness of schools, which is to say there are great schools, there are great educational practices, but what I discovered is none of them are written down. Nobody collects them, archives them, or makes them available to anybody. So when the group of teachers that are doing it right, or a school is doing it right, after a few years, they dissipate and then everybody forgets what happened. So that's what got me started into education. When I started the foundation, I had to come up with a concept of what education is, what it means to me, and what it means to the foundation. And what we decided was, education is showing young people how to gather information and knowledge. Then, step 2 is to test that knowledge and find out whether it's true or not. Or which do you think is the truest of the pieces of knowledge? Now, that really is a moving on of the scientific method. But in this day and age, we are in dire, horrific straits about one thing, which affects what Steve is doing, and that is the truth. If we don't have the truth, if nobody will accept the truth, if not knowing what the truth is or even caring what the truth is when we end up in these situations that Stephen is recording, and he's recording them in such a way that I guess people can say, well, they're all fake, but you can't. Not when you see their faces, not when you hear their testimony. He's convincing people of a truth, and I know that truth has been under attack, and we used to think, well, how ridiculous. But of course, now it's not ridiculous at all. Now the truth is being victimized in a way that's going to be very hard for us to get it back. And the only way we can get it back is through education. A good, robust education that tells the truth. And then when kids get this information, they've tested the information, tested it against the lies, tested it against, said, this doesn't work in real life. Then the third part of our curriculum is to use that knowledge to do something creative, to build something, to make something, to use it in a very practical sense. It's project-based learning. And we've been at it for a long time, and I believe that we've had a fair amount of success of moving the educational system into a system that is actually more user-friendly for the students and actually much more effective. So, with that, I don't want to go on forever. I will turn it over to my wife, who is much more. She's the A student, I'm the C- student. But the one thing about the C- students is education isn't about getting A's. It isn't about learning things. It's about good character. And I will say that even though a lot of us didn't do well in the academic world, we did come out with good character and good values, and ultimately that means a lot more. Because there's always somebody who's so much better than you are, so much more capable you are, so much more beautiful than you are, that you can just marry him and get all that stuff you got to do. Put out your marriage.
Okay, this is a true story. In 1993, I'd been out of college for 2 years. I was so obsessed with my work and job at Ariel Investments that I was stunned to learn that at one point we decided to close on Christmas Eve. I hadn't made any plans, I had nothing to do, so I decided to go to the movies alone. Now, this was Chicago, not LA. I basically had a couple of choices. I could see Schindler's List or Wayne's World 2. Okay, the choice was easy, right? I mean, you always go with the Spielberg movie, right? So it wasn't exactly a lighthearted Christmas Eve that evening, but it was an important. I was so deeply moved. I remember that I cried all night and cried all day through Christmas. I can still remember how I felt. Schindler's List touched us all because it went beyond telling a story. It bore witness. It captured the fear and desperation and suffering of those who face some horrific atrocities. It took faceless victims and gave them faces. This is the daily work of the Shoah Foundation. And we are all so appreciative to all of you who are devoted to uncovering and recording, as my husband said, the truth. It's a mission that has always been important, and perhaps it's more important than ever before today. So right now, I feel like we're frozen in a moment where we're all bracing ourselves for a full frontal assault on our freedoms. You know those mannequin challenges where everyone stands still? I feel like that's all of us, holding our breath, waiting to see what will happen. But here's the thing, already the world has changed. I find myself walking around, the person who's always been the eternal optimist, filled with some suspicion that I never felt before. I look at people and I wonder, do they believe that America is not for me too? Van Jones recently hosted a show on CNN called The Messy Truth. And he had a dreamer who stood up to tell her story. Her parents brought her to this country from Mexico when she was 7 years old. Today, she's a mechanical engineer who works in technology and on the side mentors other young women. So in this town hall, she asked for advice. What should she do to plan for her future? And a former US Senator jumped in and he said, like this dreamer, his father was 7 years old when his family escaped Mussolini's Italy and came to America in violation of our immigration laws. And the lesson he learned from that? Nothing. Instead, this former senator told this young woman on national television that this was not her country and she needed to leave. Then he added encouragingly, with a smile, that thanks to her accomplishments, the woman had the ability to, quote, go to any other country right now and apply those wares and be successful. When you watch the video, you see the woman's chin quiver as she listens to him. This person who personally benefited from what he is denying her. Her mouth stretches into the shape of a tragedy mask. And I feel like it's stories like these that makes me these days wake up each morning vacillating between the sense of great anxiety and despair. Of course, we know attacks on non-whites have been going on for a long time in this country. That's nothing new in the world. It's always been there. Still, for most of my life, racism has been covert. It's been there, but been covert. Now, in my worst nightmare, I feel the pendulum can swing back to the days of George Wallace standing in front of a school, or the days of armed policemen standing on the end of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, keeping peaceful people from marching. Now, there are some who say it's better for us to know what's in people's hearts. But I have to tell you, hatred makes me physically ill. And as overt bigotry resurfaces, I feel like there are some choices to be made. The question that I'm asking myself about me, others, will you be a realist or will you be a moralist? Which brings us back to Schindler's List. So one thing I loved about the character Oskar Schindler is that how he starts out a realist, he acts out of his own self-interest. He sees benefits in the situation that he's in and he takes advantage of them. Then over time, he becomes more and more invested. Like you, who know the end of the movie, I'll never forget when he realizes how his possessions, everything from the wedding ring on his finger to his car, could have been traded for Jewish lives. It's there that we realize he feels deep empathy and sympathy and compassion for these people, and he has become a moralist. You know, there's a law in physics, yes, I did get A's, that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And boy, did this election prove that. So despite my sadness, I believe America is great. Let's face it, we've had the privilege of the most dignified, elegant, and thoughtful president in modern history. We've borne witness to how honorable and eloquent a commander-in-chief can lead, and we will not forget him. So I have hope. Not the cross your fingers kind of hope, but the real hope in the greatness of this country and the goodness of our people. Which is why I keep coming back to the 2008 speech of my then Illinois Senator, Barack Obama, who said, "In the unlikely story that is America, there's never been anything false about hope. And in the unlikely story that is most of our lives here, and certainly my life, so unlikely to be standing here, there is never been anything false about hope." Coretta Scott King once said, "You can heal as you press on. Run on and let the healing catch up with you." And so to that I say I'm grateful to the people of the Shoah Foundation for leading the way to our healing. Thank you.